Hello everyone! This story is part of a series titled The Seattle Jijinas. How each of us deals with death and dying can be interesting. A lot of it has to do with our level of consciousness and the emotional baggage we carry around with us. Take for example my father in the passing of Rostam. When I first shared that Dad had 6 months left to live with Mom, her reaction was she did not want him to know because she did not want his family to come visit him. A very different scenario took place a couple of decades earlier with my friend Daniel, when we learned he was dying. The two of us sat down and had a conversation. Both of us believed our paths would cross again and there was no need for goodbyes. However, in the end, Daniel did have a need to say goodbye, and I'm thankful he did, because I have treasured his words over the years. Welcome to Storytime with Q Matters. My name is Kayo Jijina, and this is part 2 of my story, All God's Children. I hope you enjoy it. Over time, our lives drifted apart as we moved on to other things. The best Daniel and I could do was to get together once or twice a year. My wife at the time enjoyed meeting him, and the two would compare notes and poke fun where I had a tendency to be uptight. November of 1993. Around the time my youngest son Justin was born, I received a call from Joseph. Joseph was the man Daniel had met and would spend the rest of his life with. The two were privately married during a time when gay marriages were neither recognized nor condoned. Joseph called to say Daniel had AIDS, which I knew about, but the symptoms had grown worse. Joseph was working at one of the hospitals on Pill Hill. He could not be there on the weekends. "Would you mind looking in on him? I don't know who else to turn to," asked Joseph. Every Saturday, Justin and I made the trek down to Daniel's place and hung out in his apartment. It gave us a chance to renew our friendship that had grown cold over the years. Daniel found comfort in the fact that his Capitol Hill apartment had a view of the Seattle Archbishop's residence. There had always been some conflict inside of him, and somehow it made him feel better. It may have been part of the reason why he spent so much time at St. Alphonsus Church in Ballard with the nuns. Sister Marguerite was his favorite, and the fact that they fed him. There was a time Daniel decided to try living a monk's life. The two of us traveled to the Westminster Abbey Monastery in British Columbia to drop him off. However, the trial period was short, after which Daniel was sent back to Seattle. Basically, he was asked to leave because of his adventuresome soul, and kept getting into trouble for doing things he was not supposed to be doing, like sneaking into the kitchen at night when he got hungry, arranging for many adventures with the other monks when they were supposed to be meditating, or trying to save the Princess Marguerite from being mothballed. A short while after Daniel and I began to hang out, he got a call from his mother. Celie, which I believe was short for Celeste, was someone who had left Daniel and his father when Daniel was a little boy. She moved to Alaska to be with her girlfriend. Daniel's only adult memory of her was in junior high when she showed up at the Loch Vista Apartments in Seattle, where he and his father were living. She started a fire in the parking lot because she got cold waiting for him to come home. The fire department had to be called. Celie called to say she heard of his illness. I suspect it was through Joseph, and knew he did not have long to live. So she was flying down to take care of him. The two had been estranged for many years, and Daniel felt weird about having her come down. In spite of his reservations, she came. Celie stayed full-time with Daniel. When I came to visit, she would take breaks and walk around the Capitol Hill neighborhood. It gave Daniel and I time to look through his collection of steamship memorabilia, paper-cut houses, and nun dolls, as we played the old 78s on Daniel's Victrola. We talked about the past, and he asked me to help record his last will and testament. On June 9th, I got a call from Seeley. Daniel was not doing well, and if I wanted to say goodbye, this was the time. I went over for a visit. Seeley took a photo of the two of us sitting on the couch and stepped into the kitchen, giving us time to talk. Daniel could no longer eat. They had taken him off his insulin, and his body was in the process of shutting down. I found it difficult to be there. I had a question for Daniel. Do you believe in reincarnation? That your soul will come back in another form? I do, said Daniel. I believe we will see each other again, if that's what you're asking about. I watched as Daniel struggled to keep his eyes opened. His head was drifting from side to side. How will I recognize you if I see you again? We should set up some type of a code or clue we can both remember. I asked, hoping someone this close to death's door might have some insight, some wisdom to share. It was how I dealt with life when things got too big for me to understand. Just remember Dr. Pepper. Huh? I asked, hoping I had heard him correctly. I'll be the one who's hooked on Dr. Pepper. I've always loved it. Next, Daniel turned to me. Apparently, it was his turn for a question. Kayo, after the life I've lived, do you think I'm going to heaven? An odd question to be asked, but this was someone I cared about. Daniel, I don't think you have anything to worry about. You're one of the good guys. Besides, all God's children go to heaven. It didn't take long for Seeley to walk back into the room. On this day, she had not left on her afternoon walk. We cleared the couch. Daniel lay his head down and put his feet up, closed his eyes, and went to sleep. I held his hands for a couple of minutes, and then I left. A few weeks after the funeral, I stopped at Daniel's apartment. Seeley had packed all his stuff up, including the journals he kept, into boxes. It covered one side of the hallway. Daniel had asked me to donate his steamship collection to the Museum of History and Industry, which was located in the Arboretum at the time. He could not part with them while he was still alive. As I prepared to leave, Seeley handed me a letter and suggested I read it at home. Dear Kayo, I just couldn't leave without saying goodbye to you. Our friendship meant the world to me, and your kindness always gave me a lift. There is so much life out there for you to lead. I'm sorry I won't be around to watch you grow and seek new adventures. Don't let the world get you down or run over your goals and interests. I feel in my heart that your life will be very exciting and rewarding. We didn't get to grow to become old friends like we should have been. But what little of each other's life we did know was spent in happiness. Goodbye, Kayo. Your friend, Daniel.